We'll start, as we will each time, with an excerpt from a talk by Swami Kriyanandaji. It's about 5 minutes long.
Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. Om, I bow to Shiva. I bow to that infinite Lord in all forms, in the form of my Guru, and also in your form. Remember, when Shiva manifests in you, you may not like it always, but what he destroys in you is your delusions, your shortcomings, your limitations. Ultimately, it's the most beautiful aspect of God, because it takes you out of a lesser into a greater. Pralaya and the destruction of all things seems like a terrible thing. My home, my country, my land, my planet, my universe, everything gone. And what you have, however, is infinite bliss. This is the goal of all life. And to find that goal, one thing that is very important is to give up your self-will. I want this. It's that I, with that thought of want, circling around it like a vortex, like a whirlpool. That I needs to go. Now, when I met my Guru, he said he wanted me to give him my unconditional obedience. I'd never even heard the word Guru needs to go. Now, when I met my Guru, I read Autobiography of a Yogi. It completely changed my life. But to have anybody tell me that he asked of me my unconditional obedience, I tell you, I was so desperate to be accepted as his disciple that it was horrible to find some condition that maybe I couldn't fulfill. I wanted to be completely honest, and I said, but sir, what if I think you're wrong sometime? He reassured me. He said, I will never ask anything of you that God does not tell me to ask of you. I accepted that, and I gave him my unconditional obedience. And sometimes it wasn't particularly easy, especially when he seemed to be asking of me things that seemed to go against my own well-being. For example, he kept telling me to not be intellectual so much, to develop devotion. What he was telling me to do was not give up my intelligence. He was telling me to give up my intellectual pride. That's altogether different. But sometime after a few months, he began asking me to write articles for our magazine. And I thought, well, here I'm trying to develop devotion. Why should I have to engage my intellect? And I'd been working in the garden. That at least was fine. I could use my body. But it upset me to have to use my intellect. And I questioned him on this. And his answer was very unusual and very unexpected. Living for God is martyrdom. Well, okay, I accepted it. I accepted him completely. If anybody said anything to me that seemed out of line with truth, I would always say, is that what Master said? If the person answered yes, I would accept it. So in this case too, I accepted it, but it was a little thinking before I could understand. And I did accept it in the sense that I did write articles, and they did appear in the old magazines. And yet I finally realized that what he was saying is, don't rob from one side of your nature to feed another. Feed both of them. You should use your discrimination. You should use your intellect. Use it rightly. And the way to use it rightly is to develop devotion also. But God will not come to stupid people. You have to have brains of some kind. You have to have discrimination. Otherwise, your devotion can go just as eagerly plunging down wrong trails. It can take you into great delusions. To follow your heart can be a great mistake, because the heart can go up or down in its feelings. And if you will go with the heart and let it take you out into Maya, saying it just feels so good, you'll just find yourself having to relearn many lessons all over again. When the feelings go up and discrimination comes in and says, wait a minute, that may be fun, but it's not right. You've got to have both developed. So he was not saying to starve my nature. This is important. I can't say that beyond that, really, I ever doubted the importance of following him.
Beautiful talk by Swamiji. I was remembering a story that Swamiji used to tell often about a beggar and a king. And the king was coming through this beggar's village, and the beggar looks and he says, oh, finally, I can receive something great from this king. When the king passes by, he stops on his chariot and right near this beggar, and the beggar puts his hand out to receive from the king. And interestingly enough, the king puts his hand out and he says, what will you give to me? And the beggar took from his little bag that he had. He says, I don't have much. What can I give a king? Why is he asking me? And he pulls out this little piece of corn, a grain of a piece of corn, and he puts it into the king's hand. And he thinks, that's all I have. And the king leaves. And that night, the beggar at his home looked through his bag, what he had received, and in place of that little piece of corn, he had one piece of gold. And he thought, oh my, if I had only given my all, I would have received so much more. And this is how it is on the spiritual path. When we look outside, we look at nature, everything is giving everything it has. You think of the birds singing so much nowadays, the rain that comes, the earth, the beautiful sun, the sky, the oceans, the waves, everything is the trees, the flowers are all giving of life. It's natural to give. And for us, we are here to attune ourselves and to give back. We are here to attune to the higher reality and break out of the ego. This is the thing. If we serve, if we give, we break out of limitation, of limited thoughts, of this is who I am and this is what I am. We embrace a larger reality. We go into a higher state of consciousness and greater awareness. When we begin to serve, we crack the ego. And I remember at Ananda village early on, there was a man who never served. He said, no, I'm not here to serve. I came here to just meditate. And he meditated, supposedly meditated many hours a day. But he had such an ego. He had such wrong attitudes. He didn't even pay his rent. What happened to him? Soon after, he left because he wasn't in tune. And for all of us, Seva, Master said, Seva helps your meditation, and meditation helps your Seva. And we are here to help our Guru's work to get out of our own difficulties and problems. Through doing so, we receive the grace of God, the blessings of the Masters, His energy, His vitality, His magnetism. I remember when I was here early on, I was thinking, oh gosh, I was a bit confused. I just arrived in India. I thought I'll have so many difficulties. But Swamiji kept us so busy. You had no time to think about it. I said, I have so many problems, but I have no time. And I think of all the years that I spent with him, maybe a total of 15 minutes did he sit me down and talk with me. The rest of the time, he just kept us busy. No, try this, do this. Why don't you serve in this way? Why don't you teach this class? Why don't you sing in the choir? Why don't you go and help other people? Why don't you get on the phone and call people? And through that seva, I think people want to bank on meditation. Well, I would think again, I would say through seva more than anything, God's grace, of course, I was able to break out of those limitations. And Swamiji said that the definition of an acharya is one who in the midst of their own trials is still willing to serve others and to give to others. And I remember I was hearing a talk of his recently where someone asked that question to him, well, how do you pick your ministers or acharyas? He says, oh, we watch them. And they said, oh, you watch to see how well they speak? Or what? He said, no, no, no. He says, oh, you watch to hear how well they do this or that? He says, no, no, no. We watch them to see how well they react during trials. Are they thinking about themselves? Are they thinking about others? And as we are on this path and we learn how to serve, we find that there's so much joy and energy and difficulties are solved. Also, our families are helped. I remember I went to a Nadi reader once and he said, I asked about my mother because I've been serving all over the world for most of my life. And I said, well, what about my mother? I've never been able to help her, to spend time with her and help her. And he said, oh, no, no, you're helping her. And he said, what you're doing in your life is sending her many blessings. And so I know people wonder, well, if I go off on my own and do this and that, then I won't be able to help. I remember we took, my mother's been quite well, all these years at Ananda, by the way. Remember, we took the Nayaswami vows with Swami Kriyanandaji, and it was a moment of reckoning. It was not a joke. He had a burning flame there in the Havan. We were lying down on the floor, face down, and we had given our life. I don't want ego. I don't want to live for myself. And he gave us strict vows. And those are the vows that we live by. A brahmachari or a Nayaswami, or all of you have taken various vows. Discipleship is a vow. Kriya is a vow. All of them are about, I want to serve. And people think, well, what about my meditation? Well, I used to be that way. I tell you, well, am I going to find God? Well, what about me? What about my chakras? And what about my spiritual life? And on and on and on. And then I just thought about what a ridiculous thing to be thinking about all the time. That's up to God and Guru. We do what he gives us to do. And this is for everyone. I remember I was thinking of Master. Master went into this high state of samadhi with his Guru. And Master, he said he didn't want to be a leader. He told Swami Sri Teswarji. And Swami Sri Teswarji said, well, where would you be without somebody having helped you? And this is what we have to think of. And then that's when Master came up with that beautiful prayer, Divine Mother, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of my devotion. And may I be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. And so after Swami Sri Teswarji gave Master that experience of samadhi, he came down from that experience and he dropped down to touch his Master's feet. And Swami Sri Teswarji told him, fetch a broom and let's sweep the balcony. He just wanted to show him, you need a balanced life. And Lahiri Mahashaya with Babaji, when Babaji gave him that beautiful palace that he was initiated in, and then so wonderful. He afterwards he said, well, now you must be hungry. I mean, the palace, you reread that chapter in autobiography, is so beautiful. There were diamonds and rubies and emeralds and everything there in a beautiful golden palace. And then afterwards he says, oh, Lahiri, you must be hungry. And he manifested this bowl, and he says, just put your hands there and take out whatever you want, and your wish will be fulfilled. And Lahiri looks, there's nothing there, and he thinks of something, and he puts his hand and he eats that, and then he says, oh, now you must be thirsty. And he says, look in there, there's water. And this is so beautiful. But after that, Lahiri Mahashaya was completely taken by his Guru, so uplifted. Surely he wanted to stay with him, and after such sweet memories of him. And then Babaji says, no, you can't stay here. You must go back. Go back to your job. Go back to your wife. Go back to your family. Go back to your responsibilities. Go back and serve and share the teachings with everyone. And this isn't an age when we're in the Himalayas in a cave. I remember one person had told me, you used to live in a cave and you liked that, and you go back into the caves. I said, cave. I mean, my life isn't a cave life. My life is very outward. And this is the life Master has given us. And so Lahiri Mahashaya went back. And I remember Swamiji first got the meditation retreat because he said, oh, this would be a little retreat for myself and a few friends. And more friends came and more friends came. Now there's a global work from that little meditation retreat because it was Divine Mother's wish, not for him to have that place for himself, but to be able to go out. And I think of all the things that man did. He was incredible. He did not sit there meditating all day. He meditated a lot, but his life was completely balanced. He would do, in the mornings, he'd wake you up with strolling kirtan. Then he would lead the yoga postures. He did the chanting. And then he would lead the meditation, do the healing prayer. Then we would have different types of meditations, retreats. He wrote books all the time. He wrote music. He was out lecturing around, first around America, and then around the world. He just had so many things going all the time. We have to wake up and realize he was showing us the example of getting free. He asked Master at the age of 22, he said, Master, will I be free in this life? Master said, yes, but don't think about it. Master said, your life is lecturing, editing, and writing, and also meditation and service and meditation. He put meditation second, because he knew Swamiji's life was to give. And so this is for us as well. And I remember when I first came here to India, I was with Swamiji, and our life is for our guru. Anybody who's a disciple, it's not a casual birth. I mean, it's a deep moment in one's incarnations to be born at the time of one's guru, and all the practices that we have and so forth. And so I remember I came here and I asked Swamiji, I looked around, there wasn't much going on. I came here about a year afterwards. I mean, he was doing all kinds of things, getting on television and got a bookstore, and he was wanting to travel. He couldn't travel so much, so he sent others out. So I looked at him, I said, well, Swamiji, should I stay here? I mean, I just felt this, we need help over here. And he said, look around, you're desperately needed. I looked around, I didn't see much happening, at least at that time. And he says, you need to be here. And I remember the very first day I was here, someone came to my door and they knocked on the door and they says, Dhyanaji, you needed for a class. I said, I'm just arriving here. Isn't there anybody? They said, no, there's nobody else. And so look at your life, look around. Is there somebody else? No, Master's calling on us. And so I did stay here. I've been here 15 years now. And then I remember when we first started in Europe, that was an intense time. I mean, I told you a little bit about it the other day, but that was a time of, I remember we started out we had several places. We had one place that was, the thing is in America, self-service. Everybody serves, everybody cleans, everybody cooks, everybody does all the things. It's just not a big deal. So there we were, and we had bought this big hotel, and it was completely run down. And every day that was what we did for a month at least. We went to that big hotel, and our work clothes, I remember wearing a black plastic bag. That was my work outfit. And everybody had on a bandana around their head. And we went in and just scrubbed that place and cleaned up the kitchens and the bathrooms and the rooms and got on the floor scrubbing. And I just loved it. And everybody loved it. We were so happy to do it for our guru. This is the thing, it's not, no, I don't touch that. No, I never scrub. No, I don't touch a sponge. And we just kept going like that. And that was such a wonderful time. And then Jyotish and Devi ji and various ones of us were there at another time. And that was intense as well. We lived in a house where we had to, on the weekends, the guests would come. So we moved out of our rooms every weekend. It was for years. I mean, it wasn't like you had no place of your own. During the week, 5 days you had a space, and then you had to move out. And so we'd be carrying our suitcases out to, and there, I mean, I lived in a place, there were ants crawling all over you, and they lived in a place where there were water pipes. All they heard was the water going through it. They saw the pipes, and then you'd wake up, good morning, everyone. You come back and do the sadhana or whatever. But we went on tour in Europe. It was the worst winter in 100 years. There was snow everywhere. We were in a little car, no heating in the car. It took us days to do that tour. We had hot water bottles to keep us warm. We needed the hot water bottles to get the ice off the windshield at different times, and people would say, not mine, don't take my hot water bottle. But these were very intense times. You have to go through intensity to be strong in yourself, to be more in attunement. I gained so much of strength. I could go anywhere after that. So much of attunement, so much of magnetism. Seva makes you strong and magnetic, and you can do anything and go anywhere at that time after that. And I was thinking, when we were in India, Jayaji and I would travel around everywhere. I mean, Swamiji had us lined up. There was Jamal and various ones of us, Haridas, various ones, and Dharmadas, of course, and Swamiji couldn't go, so he would bless each one. He'd just bless you, as you were going to get on that plane. That happened just about every month, at least for some of us. But I remember we would get to the place and that we didn't know anybody in those places. It's so nice now, isn't it? Because everybody has a place in the center and members. There was no members, there was no center, there was nothing. We were breaking ground. And so we go there, and we first all had to find a place. We had to do the promotions before we even got there. And then we'd go there, and we'd have to go in the hall, set up the hall. There might be one lone guy sweeping in there, but wasn't doing much of anything. We set up the chairs, dust up the chairs. We just were so happy. Set up the registration table. We set up the altar, book table, make sure the stage looked good. Then one time I remember Karpani and I, my friends, we actually served the tea, and at the break, because it was taking so long for me, we said, we will serve you. We were just so happy. We didn't know of anybody. So we started asking people when we got to know a few more people. But I remember, first of all, those long names in the registration. And I say, now, what is your name again? I didn't know one Indian name from another. And this R.S. Subramaniam. I would say, can you spell that? Then I would say, can you write that down? But the joy of it was so strong. And that was the thing that was so wonderful, is that we were serving with joy. And I remember one elderly man, and it was actually here in Gurgaon, and but years back, and he says, oh, Acharya, because I had just given a talk with a panel of other panelists, and he said, oh, Acharya, I know now you're not gonna pack up the boxes, because we had to get out of that place. I said, just watch me. And then he saw me doing this. Oh my God, she's touching a box. And that was the thing. In the early days, people would say, no, I'll send my servants to help you. We said, we are the servants. Don't you understand? We're serving our guru. And so what happened to that elderly man? He saw me serving, and he started serving. And this is the thing. We have to break out of these things. I don't do this. Now everybody has to do everything because the maids and the cooks aren't there. I think it's a wonderful thing. And so how do we serve? We serve with joy. We serve with enthusiasm. We're happy to do whatever the guru asks us. And we serve not as a job. There was that one woman who was saying, Master said, you work too hard. You've been working that so hard all these years. You've got to work less. And she said, okay, Master, I won't work so hard. So she stopped doing so much. And Master gave her more work. And she said, oh, you work too hard. I told you, stop work. So she said, okay, Master. He gives her more work. Finally, she says, Master, let's change the word work for service. And he says, now you're talking. You've been saying work, work, work your whole life. Think of it as service. And you'll have so much energy, like Yanamata Swamiji said, running up and down the stairs. And she told one of the disciples, they said, well, she said, no, Master had called her on the phone, and another disciple answered, and they hung up fast. And she said, well, who was that? And they said, oh, it was Master. I told him you weren't well. You need to rest. And she said, listen, when he calls, you say yes, and you make it snappy. Now, he's calling us now. He's calling us. Say yes and make it snappy. We should be serving. We should be online doing yoga problems, yoga postures online, all kinds of things. And I remember this one man he was a disciple, and Master gave him a hard job. He could barely walk. He had a double curvature of the spine. He was in bad shape. Master put him on a tractor, and he said, this is your job. And the man got stronger and stronger and stronger. And this time you feel stronger and stronger. And then what happens? The people said, but isn't your back hurting? You need to be in bed, don't you? And he says, yeah, actually I do. He got weaker and weaker. He told Master, I don't want to do that job anymore. And the guy got out of tune and he left the path. Now this is the thing. We have to realize he's giving us seva to keep us strong in attunement and on the path. And finally, I'll say the most beautiful seva that I've seen in so long is in Vrindavan. I work over there. I can't talk long about it now, but Jaita's doing a fabulous job. Those ladies are so happy. I met a woman who's living in a box. We got her out of the box and got her into the ashram that we have. I met people who were living in just terrible huts, and I've seen rough places in my life. I've never seen anything like it. One woman blind, another could barely walk. But what happened? When the Paramahansa Yogananda people, when those coordinators showed up, those people were so uplifted. Take time now to uplift other people, to pray for other people, to send other people light. Send the doctors and the nurses of this who are treating people with this virus, send them light, send them energy. Get out of yourself and feel, I am here as a channel. Master needs channels of light. I'm one of those channels of light. Let's close now, rubbing the hands together, and think of all those on the front line serving now with this virus. All the doctors, the nurses, all the others, putting their lives on the line. And let's end by chanting Om. 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 Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. God bless you and have a wonderful day.